Hello everyone, this is Reza Durrani. Welcome to my channel. In today's video, we will leverage a Power App to showcase data from multiple SharePoint lists. These SharePoint lists are related to each other in a one-to-many fashion. We will showcase all their data as well as their relationships in Power Apps. So let's see how we can do that with galleries and forms and more. So let's get started with the video. The scenario here is a content scheduler application in which I have a SharePoint list wherein I'm maintaining the data of my content that needs to be scheduled. And on the other side, I have a related SharePoint list of tasks that I will be creating for each of the content items that I add in my main list. Now, if we look at the SharePoint list, my main list is called Content Scheduler. This is based on the Microsoft list template called Content Scheduler. And in SharePoint, for every item that you create in your list, there is an inbuilt column in SharePoint called ID that automatically generates a unique identity for each item that gets added to the SharePoint list. I have created a second list, which is called my tasks list. And as part of this list, I have a column here called ref ID. And this column is of type number. The goal here is that when the user creates an item in the main list, which is my content scheduler list, I would also like the user to create related items or related tasks in a separate list called tasks. So for each content in the main list, a user can create many tasks. That means the content list is related to the main list in a one-to-many fashion. And for me to establish that relationship, I have created this column called ref ID, wherein I will enter the ID of the main content item. And that is the unique ID that SharePoint generates. Now we can also go ahead and create a column of type lookup, wherein I can actually look up content from the main list. So if I pick the lookup column, I can go and define my main list. And then in this case, I can go ahead and create a lookup column. So it creates that connection with the main list. So you could go down the route of creating a lookup column as well. However, in my case, I'm keeping it simple. I have a column of type number. Now heading over to my Power App. Right now, as part of this app, I have the list of all my items in my main content list. And if I select an item, it's going to take me to the main form, wherein I see all the details of that list item. I can make modifications, I can submit, or I can go ahead and create new content items on the fly. Now let's see how we can provide the user with an option to create tasks for every content item that the user creates. So for that, I will head over to the screen that has my content form. And right here, I will first give the ability to the user to create tasks. Now I've gone ahead and added a button called Add Task. And I have another screen here called my task screen. Now this is where I would like to redirect the user to so the user can create a task. Now as part of my app, I have already connected to that tasks list. So let's go ahead and insert a form so the user can create tasks. I will use the edit form. And for the data source, I will connect it to the task list. Next, I will change the layout to a one column layout. I will position my task form in the center, realign my columns. Now my description column is a multi-line text column. So I will head over to the form, go to the description column and change this to edit multi-line text. So this now completes the setup of my form control. I will rename this to my task form. Now if I head back to my content screen and when the user clicks on add task, I would like to navigate the user to my task form. And since the user is clicking on add task, the form needs to be created as a new form. So for that, on select of this button, I will first go ahead and reset the form. So reset form, task form. Then I will call the new form function So that's new form, task form, and then I will navigate the user to the task screen. So now if I preview the app and if I click on add task, this will navigate the user to the task form so the user can fill this form out. Now the key here is that when the user navigates from the content screen to the task screen and the user is trying to create a new task, I would want the ref ID column to be pre-populated with the ID of the content form that the user was on. So if I head back to my previous screen, my content form, the item property comes from a variable called var_record. And as part of my home screen, when the user selects a specific record in this gallery, I set that variable to the current item of the gallery. And where is this gallery getting its data from? If we look at the items property of the gallery, it's coming from my main list, which is my content scheduler list. So the moment the user selects a record, in that case, I set that variable and then I send the user to the main content screen and set the form in edit mode. That's why when I select, it just straight away takes me to this specific screen and opens up the form for that specific record. So I already have the reference of the main record in that variable. Now if I click on add task, this now takes me to the task form, which opens up the form in new mode. Now if I need to fill that reference ID here, all I have to do is select this data card, unlock this data card, go to the default property associated with this data card, and now I will want to change this when the form is in new mode. So for that, what we can do is if the task form dot mode is equal to form mode dot new, that means this form is in new mode. In that case, set the default value as my variable, which is the main record variable, dot get the ID. Else, keep the formula as is. Now if I preview this app, observe how it puts the reference ID as 1. That is because this data that is being represented here, which is blog post on PowerApps, if I head to the SharePoint list, the ID of that item is 1. So that means whenever I try and create a new task, it's going to plug in that ID of the main item right here. If I go back to my main screen and if I select the second item here, the ID for which is 3, if I select this record and click on add task, this time observe how the reference ID is 3. So that's how I plan to relate the tasks with the main list. Now this reference ID column is not something that I would like the user to change. In fact, I do not want to even show this to the user. So for that, I will select the data card and go ahead and set its visible property to false. So it's hidden now from the screen. However, the logic that I incorporated of setting the default value is in place. Next, I have added a button, and on select of this button, I will go ahead and submit the form, which is my task form. And for the form control, there is a property called onSuccess. So when this task is successfully created, that is added to my SharePoint list, in that case, I will go ahead and call the back function so that it navigates the user back to the previous screen. So let's go ahead and preview this. Now the main item here, if I go back, main information of my content is right here in the title section. Now when the user is adding task, I'm trying to create a task about what? So what I could do here is, in the header of my screen, I can go ahead and append the title of that main task. Once again, I can grab that from that main variable record. So now if I go ahead and preview this, I can see that I'm trying to create a task on this topic. So let's say I go about and add a few tasks. So here's my task about installation and setup, and I give myself a specific due date, and this task is currently not completed. I click on submit. This will go ahead and only navigate me back if it successfully creates the item in the SharePoint list. Now if I go to my SharePoint list, I will see that item getting generated. And notice the reference ID is the ID of my main list item. Now if I head back right here, of course I can go ahead and keep adding more tasks. So here is a second task that I just created on the fly. Now these tasks are getting recorded in my backend data source, but I need to showcase that on this screen. So for that, I will go ahead and insert a gallery. So I will place the gallery right here. I will change this to a simple title and subtitle kind of a gallery, the data source for which will be my tasks list. Connect to my task list and showcase all the items. I have more real estate to play with, so I will change my wrap count to 3 so it can show me in a single row. So I have my task title, I have my task due date, I have this icon here. I will change this to the next icon. And additionally, I would like to also show the status of my task. So I will go ahead and insert a label, place the label right here. And for the text property, I will leverage this item dot. I have a column called completed. It's a Boolean column, so it returns true or false. I will put a condition. If this item dot completed, that means if it's true, in that case, you say yes, otherwise you place no. I can even add some color formatting to that label, wherein I'm checking to see if the task is completed or not. If yes, put the color dark green, else put the color dark red. So now if I preview this app, right now it is showing me all the tasks, but I want to only see the tasks that are related to this specific record. So for that, for the items property of the gallery, we will add a simple formula, filter the task list, where the reference ID column is equal to my main record variable dot ID. And now if I preview my app, this will show me the records related to the main list item. So if I go back to home and if I select blog post on PowerApps and hit next, my gallery will be empty. That's because I have no tasks that were created with respect to this item. So let's go ahead and add one. So I've just gone ahead and completed the form. I will click submit, and now back to my main content item, I can see the related tasks right here. Next, when the user selects a specific task, I would like to redirect the user to that task form screen so the user can go and make changes if required. Now for that, I will first go and grab the code that I wrote on the add task function, head over to this icon, and on select of this icon, I will go ahead and paste that same code but make a few changes. I will change this new form now to edit form, and I will also go ahead and set a variable here. I'll call this my variable task item, and for this I will set the context of this current item. Now if I go ahead and preview this app, if I select this, it will redirect me to the task form, but I do not see the form. That is because for this task form, I am yet to set the item property. And for the item property, I will set this to where task item. Now if I preview my app, I can see that specific item right here. So let's say I change the status to not completed. I click submit. I'll be back to my main form and I can see my task being updated right here. So I can add a task, or I can select a task and make a modification to an existing task. All of these tasks are related to my main list item. Now this is all good when the user selects a specific content item and then starts adding tasks. What if the user is creating a new content item, that is the item in my main list? So when the user selects a specific record, I'm setting that variable reference to the main item, I'm resetting that form, setting that form in edit mode, and navigating the user. Now when the user selects this plus icon to create a new item, I am resetting the form, setting the form mode to new, and navigating the user. But one additional thing that I would have to do is setting that main record variable. And this one, I will set it to blank. And the reason is because I want the form to show up in new mode and not have any reference to any record. So now if I preview my app and click this, it will navigate me to the content info screen, and this form now opens up in new mode. Now if I try and add a task, it will be a problem. That's because the main record is not yet created. I would like to create tasks only when the main item is actually created in my list, because I need that ID. That ID in SharePoint only gets generated once the main item is created. So for that, first thing is, for my task form button and my gallery, if I head over to the visible property, I can set the visibility as follows. The content form dot mode, that's the main form. If the mode of this form is not equal to form mode dot new, that means if this is not in new mode, then go ahead and show these items. So now if I click on plus and the mode of this main form is in new mode, the user will not have the option of adding tasks. That's because they can only add tasks once they create the item. So now let's go ahead and add a new item. So I've just gone ahead and filled this form, and when I will click submit, when this form submits successfully, I redirect the user back to the home page. Now you will see that the new record that I just created is right here. The ID is 4. Now if I go ahead to this record, because this form is in edit mode, I can make modifications right here and submit, and at the same time I can even add tasks on the fly. Now there are no tasks here, so if you would like to display a message to the user, we can even do that by adding a very simple label control, the text for which I have set as no tasks. I've set the color to red, and the visibility if the count of the items in my tasks gallery is equal to 0. So now if I preview my app, I will see the message here that there are no tasks. Now I can click on add task to create a task. So I've just added a task. I will click submit, and I'm back to my main list item again, and here is the task that just got generated, and it is related to my main list item. So now that we have the creation and the edit experience set up and the relationship between these two lists through that reference ID column, let's see how I can show the related tasks as well on the main screen when the user selects a specific record in the content list. So for that, I will once again insert a simple gallery control, connect the gallery to my task list, and now if I preview my app, I can see all the tasks that are a part of my task list. But I need to only show those tasks based on the selected item in my content gallery. So for that, I will filter my gallery of tasks, once again based on that column that I created relating the two lists, which is the reference ID being equal to the main gallery dot selected dot the ID of my main list. Now if I go ahead and preview this app, the related tasks would be the tasks that are actually related to the selected item in this main gallery. So if I select blog post on PowerApps, I just had one task that is not complete. If I select this, it will take me directly to this specific item. And right here, I can see my working with galleries record. I can go right here and I can make modifications to it. Click submit. The task status changes. If I go back to my main screen, I will see that change being reflected right here. Now in this screen, I have the plus icon next to related tasks. So if the user wants to create a task, a related task right here from the main screen itself, because I've made things so generic, it's very simple for me to plug that formula here. All I have to do is, once again, first step is reset my main task form. Next, set the mode of my task form to new, and then navigate the user to the task form. And before all of this, I also have my variable, which is where task item. In this case, I will set it to blank. Now here is my main record, which is blog post on PowerApps. When I click on plus, this will take me straight away to the task screen. I will create a task, click submit. This will now take me back to the main screen. And right here, I can see that task that I just created. If I go to a different record and click plus, this will now take me to the screen where I can create a task related to my Power Automate desktop record. So I've just created a record, and right here when I click submit, I'm back to my main screen and I can see the task. The key thing here is that when I'm navigating to that secondary screen, I set the main record as well. That's my main record item that I'm setting based on the selected item of the gallery, so that when I go to that task screen, I have the variables automatically set up. And finally, if I want to edit the task directly from the main screen itself, I will add a simple icon. And my code will be very similar to what's there on the plus icon. So I'll go right here. So for this icon now, I will just start making a few changes. My task item will be this item. So I pass the context of this. The record will be the main record that's selected in this gallery. And then I want to take the user to the task form where the user can make modifications. So I'm going to change the mode of the form to edit. Now if I preview this, and let's say I go to this task, which is pad unattended flows. Right here, let's say this task is not completed. I change the date. I click submit. I am back to my main screen and I can see the status of that related task changing right here. So that's how you can create related lists and provide information to your users through PowerApps so that they can create records, edit records, add related tasks by using that simple concept of that one extra column that I created, which is the reference ID column, wherein I'm maintaining the ID of the main item. And once I have that, it's very simple for me to plug in those formulas so I can get only the related tasks and the user can create tasks and associate it with the main item. If you enjoyed this video, then do like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And thank you so much for watching.